Hey, guys, it is Allison. I am the host of your show, Allison Answers Mission Awake. I cannot wait to sit down with you today and go over how we are going to crush the mediocrity in your life that has been plaguing our society since the beginning of time. I cannot wait to have a real deal conversation that includes intelligence, fun, excitement, and real actionable steps to make a real difference in the life that you're living now and making it into something you can be damn proud of and excited to live. Sit down, put on your damn seatbelt, and get ready for the ride of your life. Hey guys, how are you today? It is Allison from Allison Answers, and we have a really sparkly guest today. Now, we have this woman, Shannel. Could you please pronounce your last name? I don't want to butcher it.
Venegas.
Venegas. I actually knew that. Shannel Venegas is someone that I have met when she was doing a speaking engagement, and she was kind enough to talk to me and to share some of her wisdom with me. And what I found in Shannel is incredible. And I know that you're going to find that as well. Basically, what I want you to sit down and just lean back, take notes if you need to, because you're going to hear things about your greatness and how you can overcome pretty much anything. There really isn't any excuse for us not to succeed, not to thrive in life, because Shannel is a person who has overcome so many things that most people would say, this is my excuse for not, being a badass like she is. And what she has developed over her young life, I think, is incredible. And she's going to show us how she went through kind of tragedy or difficulty to triumph. And this can also tell you how you can do that as well. And in terms of who Shannel is, she is a very, very highly successful business owner and entrepreneur. She has an unbelievable following on Facebook. She is a person who empowers women to empower themselves. And she knows how to teach women strategic ways to be successful in business, in life, empower themselves as women, I believe. And I know just being in her presence, you're going to change. So I'm going to just get right into it. It's going to be a raw discussion about some, deep and possibly personal things, if Shannel will let me dig through. Okay, yeah. Shannel, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm excited to chat today.
Yes, I am too. So Shannel, when I saw you in St. Louis, you just got up on that stage like this hot pink mama and you told your story, and the backstory is incredible. So would you mind just giving like the audience some backstory about where you've been and where you are now, like the contrast?
Yeah. So it's so funny. I just posted the other day that people that meet me in this season will have never known the seasons that I've walked through. And to me, that's winning, right? Because people make so many assumptions about who I am based off of where I am now. And I always think, oh, honey, if you only knew, right? So I came from poverty. My mom was a single mom. She had 3 jobs. I grew up literally in bunk beds in my grandma's living room. I shared a bunk bed with my sister in my grandma's living room in Southern California. And then as I got older, I ran to gang culture, which I hung out with and dated. Okay, I was like 13, but whatever. From 13 to like 19, 20, I dated and hung out with one of the deadliest gangs in the entire world, not California, not America, the world. And in that moment, I didn't even realize how bad it was because I just so desperately wanted a community, right? And gang culture is very much so a community, whether or not it's a good community or whatever you want to look at it, it was a community. So that's where I kind of come from. And then I kind of just was going through life, and I ended up at FedEx and one day I just found myself making $9 an hour at FedEx. And I'm like, okay, you're 25, you're making $9 an hour. What the hell are you going to do with your life? Like, you're getting too old for this. And I started working really hard at my career at FedEx. And within 3 years, I became a district manager at FedEx, which is like unheard of. People thought I was crazy for even setting a goal. I had set a goal of 6 years to become a DM. And they're like, you're not even a store manager. Like, how are you going to do that? And within 3 years, I became the number one district manager in all of FedEx, despite having the smallest footprint, despite having the smallest staffing. All the odds were stacked against me, and we just crushed it. And it was in that very moment of, okay, I finally have it all, right? I had been married, I was working on this prestigious career, and I had never felt more alone in my life because I lacked that community that I once had, from the streets of LA. And so I started something in the middle of my sleep, basically called Beauty and Hustle. Um, and it came from a really deep and ugly and dark place, crying at the kitchen table about feeling so alone. Like, how can you be at the top of what you thought you were striving for and still feel like complete crap? And so I started this community on Facebook, and overnight it grew basically within like 2 or 3 days to like 25,000 people. And that's really where, that's where the magic started to happen. And I grew Beauty and Hustle from 0 to 7 figures within 1 year, with all organically, no paid ads, nothing of the sort, just attraction marketing and putting my heart out and being honest and really getting people to like, know, and trust me. And since then, Beauty and Hustle has went on and made millions of dollars and has changed millions of lives. And um I've went on to business coaching and all kinds of things. But my most prestigious thing that I'm most proud of is being able to create impact way beyond what I've ever fathomed, right? Way beyond the FedExes, way beyond the streets of LA, touching people's lives that live in different countries that would normally have never known that I even existed. And so giving people the hope and the backstory of where I come from, and giving women the inspiration to get up off their booties and get it done, and know that it's okay if they fail once in a while, because I fail all the time and I do it very publicly, which
Yeah.
I think sets me apart. Sets me very apart from any other influencers that I truly see out in the game. Nobody's talking about their failures, but I talk about them all the time. So, but yeah, that's kind of where I came from. And I'm actually in the midst of a lot of things kind of changing and moving, and I've scaled my business back a lot to get my mental health back during a divorce. And yeah, I've been really public with all of that too. So hopefully for the people that are hearing, I've been through a lot of crap in my life, and a lot of ups and a lot of downs, and it's really hard, and especially from the entrepreneur side, but from the corporate side too. And I think that, not enough people talk about that, of feeling aloneness, whether it is that you're trying to strive for a promotion at work, which I don't know why some entrepreneurs shit on people that have jobs. I'm like, if
You're
you're an
right.
entrepreneur building a business and you think that employees are dumb, how are you going to hire employees? Like,
Exactly.
that. I've always fought that ideal that, like, people that are just employees are just employee. Like, there's a role for everybody.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's a little bit of my backstory. And
I have so many
yeah,
questions for you because
yeah.
I just want to acknowledge that I'm presuming that your incredible following and your success comes from your authenticity. That's just because I feel so drawn to you and comfortable with you just from, and you get, if you look at the context, I was sitting in the audience, right? So, and you were up in that beautiful hot pink outfit, walking across the stage back and forth, owning it. And, but you draw people in with that, and I really do believe that our world is desperate for people to tell the truth about what hurts. Because think about it, as soon as I see you, like I get a little tear in my eye because I feel like, I can be me, right?
I
And
love
that
that. Thank you.
no, but that's real about you, don't you think? Mhm.
And that's huge. So thank you for that, because I don't feel like, um, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that comment.
No, and I really appreciate you and I appreciate what you're doing. And I just wanted to just dive into because you give people permission to be real, to be vulnerable, to be hurting, to be making mistakes. Because how do we get from a tragic place to a triumphant place without, if we become ashamed of every mistake or every, bad relationship or whatever that is, how are we ever going to get anywhere unless we hide and pretend? And that doesn't, where does that get you, right?
Yeah, it
Emotionally.
doesn't.
I mean,
Yeah.
don't we all just want to be happy, really, ultimately?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I think the hard part of the, don't we all want to be happy statement is that a lot of people look towards others for happiness for two reasons. A, they're looking for other people to make them happy, which you have to make yourself happy first, right? And
100%.
that is something that I have learned in a huge way with my divorce. Not that my ex-husband ever truly was making me happy, but I had to figure out how to make myself happy alone. But the other part is that we do look to social media, or we look at the people in our office, or you know what I mean, the people that we work with every day, and we size our life up to what their highlight reel is, and it's unrealistic, right? And which is why I try to share all the good and the bad and the ugly and the uglier, because nobody's talking about that stuff,
Yeah,
even some of the big, like these big hotshot influencer guys that are making millions of dollars and doing all these things, and they do have great impact. They're still not talking about falling flat on their face, and I
yeah.
know that they're doing it. I'm in masterminds with them, right? So I'm seeing the post of, oh my gosh, my marriage is falling apart, or oh my gosh, this is happening. And it's like, but why are we not discussing that publicly so that we can all learn
Yes,
together, right? Because happiness really is an inside job. And
100%.
you have to find out what makes you happy. And I just want anyone listening to understand something. At one point, beauty and hustle was all gas, no breaks. I mean, I was working 6 days a week, 16 hours a day during COVID. I had a 5,000 square foot warehouse. I had a ton of employees, just making six figures every month. Like it was crazy. I was the most miserable I've ever been. And I was the closest to being a millionaire at that point.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't work that much anymore. I've learned that that is not what makes me happy, but I had to get to that point to understand that. And for some people, it might be like, they really want a private jet. Cool. That's great. Amazing. Right. And that's not to say that maybe I won't have those things, but that is not authentically aligned to who I am or the things that I actually want that bring me joy. So
See,
finding that out for yourself is important.
yeah, and like you are clearly a person who can, with strategy and your understanding of business, can scale something to a tremendous place, right? But you discovering, and I'm wondering because of just even some of the things we talked about off camera, that overwhelming sense of loneliness that you described originally, that when you went into the gang culture, right? And then I'm thinking as an entrepreneur, that overwhelming sense of loneliness, right? Like, who am I? Or, and I'm imagining within your divorce, like how would you tell a person who's on here? Because I know it. I know that so many people who are listening to this are lonely deep inside, or they're ashamed deep inside, you know? And
Yeah.
like, what would you say? How did you move through, or are you moving through that? What is your experience?
Yeah, I definitely am still moving through that. I was with my ex-husband and married. I was married for 10 years and with him for almost 15. So I'm 38. So if we do the math, I was with him for my entire adult life, right? Everything that I've known has been with this certain person. And The beginning of my marriage was amazing and I'll never discount that. But the end was so treacherous that I can't even fathom that I put myself through that, because I'm smart and you know what I mean? I have resources, and unlike many other women, I had the financial resources to also leave, which most people and most relationships, there's one person at least that is financially bound to a relationship. And in my case, I wasn't even the one that was financially bound to the relationship. And somehow I was still stuck for years.
Yes.
And that loneliness is really, really understanding um, what makes you happy at your core, when there is nobody around and when there is nobody to fulfill all of those nuances that are usually preoccupied with other people, right? And so really experiencing yourself and figuring out what makes you happy is so important. And like, for example, yesterday, I have 3 big dogs, and yesterday I was walking them and we got attacked by a dog that was loose. And
Mm.
I called my parents and I'm like freaking out. God bless my parents, by the way, because those poor people, I mean, I just like, they're probably like, at what age are you going to stop calling me with your midlife crisis? But I call them freaking out, because I had to walk home still.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm walking home, my fingers bleeding.
Oh my
And my
God.
mom is like, "Are the dogs okay?" I'm like, "They're okay." And she's like, "But you're not." And I'm like, "I'm not." And she's like, "Well, are you bit?" And I'm like, "No." And I'm like, I'm tired of doing this shit alone. Like, that was the first, you know what I mean? Like, in your
Yes.
height of crisis, it wasn't even like that was scary. The other dog could have killed me. My dogs could have killed them, because my dogs are pretty scrappy. But it was this innate feeling of, why do I have to walk my dogs alone? You know what I mean? And so
Yes.
that's that like deep rooted loneliness where you're in either a high or a low, and you're calling your mom. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
my
Yes.
mom's my emergency contact and I'm about to be 40. Like,
Yes.
what now, granted, my mom, God bless her, because she's like, well, if you were with your ex-husband, he'd probably let you get bit anyways. Like, he wouldn't have helped me. So that would have been worse, right? So
Yeah.
I'm not advocating for staying in unhealthy relationships, but there is that loneliness feeling that creeps up where you're just like the little mundane things, like, damn, why do I have to walk my dogs alone? Like, come on, God, what did you do? What did I
Yeah.
do wrong here? So but
You,
just figuring out what you want and then not settling for less. And I feel
yeah.
like I have a really hard time dating, and it's because I spent so many years with the wrong person and pouring all the love and all doing trying to do my best and trying to do all the right things with the wrong person, and that A, I can't afford to waste any more years, but B, I cannot wait. Like, I can't wait until it's reciprocated, because
Yes.
I can't wait for that kind of love,
Yeah.
like, and I know it has to exist. I see other people that have it, so
Mhm.
I just can't wait for the moment where I can give my all like I've done in the past and have it be reciprocated and just have it be so good. Not that it's going to be perfect, because I'm not delusional, but yeah, so that's what loneliness is, and just not settling for a hot
Yeah.
body, you
A
know?
100%. But I'll tell you something interesting. When I'm listening to you and the things you're saying, I'm picturing you in the marriage that I'm hearing was empty at the end, right?
Yeah.
And that's like such a heightened state of loneliness when you're with someone and you're alone. That
Yes,
is
that's
one
the
kind of a
worst.
loneliness, right? But
Yeah,
then
I
the
always
other
say that.
kind, you're describing walking these dogs, right? And I relate to this a lot, walking these dogs and just not having that go-to, that partner that even just being an entrepreneur, you're the last buck, like you're the one that
Yeah.
everything, and not having that person behind you as a strong woman where you can be fragile, where they're going to take care of you, all of those things that are so, it just even in the practical things. I had to put my dog down after my husband died and I had to do it alone. And I remember thinking that same exact thing, like, how come I have to do this alone? And like
Yeah.
feeling like, I heard you say, which I thought was interesting because it was the same words I said, was, what's wrong with me that I have to
Yeah.
do this alone? Right. And how many of us go there, Shannel? Like
Oh,
when
totally.
we're feeling sad or when we make a mistake, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
And that's why you're so beautiful in your willingness to just openly say, what's wrong with me? Because how many women out there have said that? I want to hear I want to see the hands raising, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and that's the thing too, is that sometimes when you do try to live authentically, it's almost to a fault. Like people will do the dirtiest things to me. Like I've had a business partner rob me. Obviously, my ex-husband is not a great person. I've had friends do really, terrible things, well, quote unquote friends. And I'm always like to my parents and to my best friend, like, okay, the only thing that's in this equation is me. So it has to be me. Like, somebody just tell me how to fix me because I'm willing to do the work. And they're just staring blankly at me like, girl, it's not you. And I'm like, it has to be me. Like, let it be me so I can do the work, Like, I always say that people that go to therapy are because the people that need therapy won't go, right? So it's like, I'm in therapy, like, what's wrong with me? And they're like, the only problem wrong with you at this moment is that you think it's you. And, and you can't fix that. Like, you can't fix that person, And I'm like, and I try to fix people. So that's also a character flaw in me, is picking people that I think need saving. So,
Well, you just said it right there,
yeah,
right?
I know, I'm
Because
working on it.
yeah, because that concept, you think about a woman who's nurturing and, has like a desire, that's what you're doing to help people, right? So I'm a helping person, right? I own counseling centers. So what would be a natural draw? Could be a natural draw for someone who needs help, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, but then I wonder also, if you think about, okay, if we're the common denominator, okay, in a situation, so then it's like, okay, so what is it really that I feel about me? What do
Mm,
I feel about me that lands me here today? So, like, so what I think happens? I think that we become addicted to the feelings we feel the most throughout our lifetime. And, from 0 to 7, that's when we're programmed. So whatever that belief system is, and it's all unconscious, right? Whatever that belief system is, like drives these outcomes that we're doing everything not to have,
yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
So it's like, what's the underlying message that comes with the betrayal, right? What do you think it is?
Yeah.
What's the
I
underlying message?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. So interesting enough, I don't remember anything before like 8 or 9.
Yeah.
So there goes how dramatic my life has been.
Yeah.
Like, I literally don't remember hardly any of it. But I think the underlining message is really like, I want to take care of people because I felt so abandoned at times, right? So
Yeah.
I don't ever want anyone else to feel that way.
Yeah.
And I do that to a flaw. The other thing that I heard the other day, and it just made like a light bulb go off in regards to the love languages test, and it made so much sense to me that I'm like, oh my gosh, is that that this girl was saying her theory on the love language test is that your top 2 love languages that you receive love in are the top 2 that you did not receive when you were in childhood. And I was just like, my mouth
Yeah.
literally dropped because I score a 0 on gifts, and my mom is like the best gift giver. She didn't care if she had to work 17 jobs. Like, she was going to give us gifts, and she still to this day gives the best gifts. But I don't really care about gifts because I grew up with them, right? Like, I've always had that. But what's interesting for me is that words of affirmation is my number one. And it's what I used to struggle with my ex-husband. Like, I need you to tell me I'm doing a good job. I need you to tell me that I'm pretty. And like, literally in marriage counseling, he would tell the therapist, like, why do I need to tell her that? The whole internet does. And I'm like, ugh. That makes it worse, my guy. Like, I have
Yes.
500 strangers telling me I'm pretty, and my husband being like, "Are you sure you're wearing that? Like, that's what you want to wear?" You know what I mean? And you're like, "Wait,
Yeah.
wait, wait, what?" So, for people that are listening right now, that is something that really like struck a nerve with me, is understanding that the two things that you're craving most in your adult life from like the love language test are probably the things that you didn't receive. And so sometimes what I've learned is that we then tend to overcompensate in those areas, right? And that's the whole purpose of the love language test, anyways, is that I shouldn't love Allison the way that I like to be loved, because she doesn't necessarily not only want that, but you may not even receive that well, you know?
Mhm.
So I just think that that was really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to do a better job because I have a very anxious attachment style to people. I don't really mess with a lot of people, right? Like, I keep my circle pretty small, but once I let you in, I'm like a little kid. Like, I want to
Yeah.
be next to you. I want to plan trips. I want to do this and it. And that is also to a fault of mine, because these
Yeah.
are then the people that, seep in and they end up hurting me. And so now I'm just at the point of my life of, how do I figure out who's the right people to let in, because I still need to let people into my life, but how do I, create a barrier of knowing who's just trying to get in for malicious reasons. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
So,
But you know what's interesting about that? I just happen to know a little bit about it because of what I do. But like this whole thing that we're talking about, when you're saying, like I have this anxious style, right? This of connecting or whatever, of relating. And I'm thinking, attachment. And like if you think about, for any of us, if we are from our history and childhood, if the fear was that we could be rejected or abandoned, right? If that is an ultimate, like a theme, just like a landscape in our life that we're unconscious about, right? And then we have this anxious attachment style that will draw people who, and we will actually be aligned with and move toward people who will keep that anxiety going, because we become chemically addicted to the feelings we feel the most.
oh yeah, totally. And that's something that I've learned post divorce is what a trauma bond is.
Mm,
And understanding trauma bonds and stuff like that, in hindsight, now it makes so much sense as to why I got in the relationship that I did, and that my ex-husband was 13 years older than me, and why I, you know what I mean? Like, why I had all of these like notions of how life was gonna go and all of these things. And now I'm just thinking like, that's so weird. Like, I wouldn't date a 22-year-old. You know what I mean?
right,
Like,
right.
but when
Yes.
you're 22, you're not thinking like that. You're thinking, oh
No.
my gosh, this is amazing. So
Yes.
yeah, no, it's totally that way. And something that, I've learned and I've had to come to terms with is that, being in a trauma bond and mental abuse and like being verbally abused is just as damaging to the brain as being punched in the face. And I don't
100%.
think enough people realize that and or acknowledge that, because if
Yes.
I went on social media right now and said, my ex-husband punched me in the face, which he has never, okay, just to clear the
Mhm.
air, right?
Right.
He's never, people would be outraged, right? But
Yep.
if I go on there and say, he was mean to me to the depths of like the craziest things ever, and it mentally like did the same thing. I sometimes I would, I don't want to say I wish he would have hit me, but like, I wish I would have known how damaging it was, right? Because
Yeah.
we're trained to know that if a man hits you, you should leave. We
Right.
are not
Exactly.
trained that if a man is verbally, or a person, it doesn't need to be a man, it could be a person, it could be a friend, it could be a parent, it could be anybody. If somebody is verbally abusing you, you are literally scientifically damaging your brain in
Yep.
the same way, but nobody's talking about that.
No. And you know what else? The other thing is that like if we, what happens, the chicken or the egg, it doesn't matter. But if they enter into your life, and then then your voice inside is matching what they're saying. So so that's like the alignment. Like, if, so many women just beat themselves up, in our culture all the time. And it like invites, and a guy can support that, right? And be just right along beating the woman up verbally. But the thing, when you describe the trauma bond, do you want to explain what that is for people who don't know what that is?
Yeah, so a trauma bond, and I think I'm gonna say this. If what I'm about to say, if it kind of makes you like, you know, be be grateful that you don't understand that, right?
Mm.
Because there's been a lot of people that I try to explain it to, and they kind of just shrug it off and laugh a little bit. And I'm like, you should be really grateful that you don't understand what I'm trying to say, because the people that get it, and it's the most traumatic thing ever. But a trauma bond is that when your body is actually chemically dependent on the highs and the lows of a relationship. And it becomes so addicted to it, like a drug, like it's literally a drug. And when you get to that low, you are programmed to know that the high will come, the high is going to come. So you start acting in a way that is probably out of character for you, to get back to that sense of security and safety of the high. And you will do anything and everything in your power to get to that. And when you get to the high, you would think, okay, cool, you're good. Then you start to dread the low, because you know that the drop is coming. You know that it's coming, and you're smart enough. Okay. You are not a stupid person. I am not a stupid person. I knew the low was coming. As soon as I would hit the high, my heart would stop and say, okay, cool. Like, how many hours or how many days do I have until the low hits, and it's literally like a roller coaster. And the only thing that you can do is not even get off the roller coaster. You have to get off the roller coaster, and you have to get out of the theme park, because if not, another roller coaster will tempt you and you will get on a different ride. Like, and it will just continue to go over and over. But I have learned that you are actually chemically dependent on the dopamine and the serotonin from the high of getting that relationship back to where it needed to be, after it fell. But the person on the other end of a trauma bond is doing that to you on purpose. And that has been one of the hardest things that I've had to deal with, in my divorce, is realizing that this wasn't just somebody, mentally ill, or somebody that maybe just was mean or mean spirited. This was somebody that was calculating how to be mean to me and how to starve me of everything he knew I desired, and then calculating when to give that plate back to me in order to keep me on the ride. And that was probably the hardest thing, and still the hardest thing that I'm processing, because a normal person cannot fathom, right? Like, so if I'm your friend and I just am like, you know what, Allison, like, we've hung out a few times, we're just not really our cup of tea. Like, I don't wish any ill will towards you, but like, I don't really want to hang out with you, right? But I can't fathom being like, I don't really like Allison, so let me just like love bomb her and be all nice, and then take it all away and then give it back. I don't have time for that, nor does my brain go through that cycle. But there are people out there, and there's zero remorse. They know exactly what they're doing. And how I was able to learn this is because if I look at the highs, he was able to deliver everything that I would beg. I mean, I'm a very smart, attractive, funny, I was making millions of dollars woman, and I would be in my own home begging for love, attention. Please go to dinner with me. Please look at me when I'm speaking to you. Please, just like the dumbest things that you shouldn't have to beg your partner for. And he would literally give me the plate and then take the plate away.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's basically what a trauma bond is in a really short period of time. But
I want to just tell you, just first of all, thank you so much for sharing that, because I know it's a very, very vulnerable and painful thing to share. And, you are very, so generous in that vulnerability. I really mean that. It means a lot to, I'm sure, everyone who's listening. I know a lot of people on here who do listen really have the repetitive relationships like that. So I just want to thank you, because you're giving a lot to people now. But one of the things, and educating those who don't know, but if I could just piggyback on just a couple of things you said, because they're so powerful. It's so common for that to happen to very, very successful women as well. Women who are beautiful, women who have a lot going for them. That is not unusual, because part of that is also that this incredible woman is also a representation to them. It tells them how great they are by having this and the interesting thing, if anyone, as human beings, we're habituated, we're all automated, we basically live on programs, and we don't realize it. We can create new things, but basically when we go from a childhood experience, whatever that is, any kind of deprivation, any kind of shame, and just a little bit of attachment or connection to that area can slowly build into something that becomes this. And it's a slow, it's a slow fade. It happens a day at a time that people become addicted to things, and
Yeah.
and also the other thing I just want to throw out there to anybody who would even naysay this is that if you think about it, we have big pharma, right? There's drugs for everything. The biggest storehouse of pharmaceuticals is in our body. There's every kind of drug that we can create. There's so much happening chemically that we do become addicted to the feelings we feel the most. We also know that in families and in relationships, there are scripts. Like, you could say, I know if I said to my mother, this blah, 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 I could ask you, what would your mother say back? And you would know,
Yeah.
because we're programmed in scripts. So in order to change things, it's almost like you have to change the script, even socially, right? But this story right here, how would you describe? Because now you're at in your marriage, you're also this super successful woman. I think women also, and probably men too, who are in really bad situations at home, have a tendency to, it's like you almost like feel crazy, so then you pretend.
Yeah, I don't think I ever pretended. I've had
It's hard
a
for me to
pres
see you pretending. So yeah.
yeah. I mean, I've had a big presence on social media for so many years, and a lot of people, when I started my business, he was very active in my business, and so people would see us, and what they saw was true. It was true at that moment, 100% true. But I do think that if somebody was to like go look at videos over time, you can start to see the
Yeah.
breakdown, right?
Yeah.
And then he just disappears from them.
Oh.
And you can also, like, if you were to look at my social media posts, and I'm saying this because of my job as an influencer, right? So not everyone would have this social proof, but for me, I do, which is kind of cool, kind of not, but kind of cool in ways for me to do my healing, is where you can start to see, you'll see the posts from 12 years ago where it's like me and my man, like we're going on a cruise, da da da, and all the happy pictures, and you will see the breakdown of when I stopped talking about him. So I didn't publicly say like, hey, we're not doing so good for a while, but I stopped talking about that, and I just was talking about my business and life and my career. And then I did start slowly talking about divorce. I mean, I made a post about talking about divorce 3 years before we got divorced.
Mm.
So nobody can ever come for me and be like, oh, look, she was on the internet pretending like relationship goals. No, and I was making posts saying, we talked about divorce, but here's what we're doing. We're going to counseling. So if this is you and your husband, try going to counseling. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't
Yeah.
be like this. So
Right.
the kind of cool thing about my journey is that it's all documented, and what's even crazier for me now is to go back and look at pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can literally see the energy of us shift. Like,
Wow.
if
Yeah.
you were to start pictures from when, when we first met, which obviously should be amazing, and then go through it, like, towards the end, we look like totally different people, but also the energy, you can actually see it, like, and this is gonna sound weird, but like his eyes got crazy,
Yeah.
so as a therapist, you probably know what I'm talking about, but like
Yeah.
his eyes were soft and kind for
Wow.
years. And then if you look at my later, I mean, these are pictures that I've literally like studied, because I'm like,
Yeah.
what the hell? Like, where did this go wrong?
Yeah.
Because I don't make this mistake
Yeah.
ever again. But you can see that. And I know that there's people that are listening that are going to understand what I'm saying. Like,
Yes.
go look at your photos. And if your brain needs some proof, go look at your photos, because you will start to see the distance. You'll start to see the lack of intimacy within a photo, that lack of like glow. I mean, I
Yes.
literally look like a totally different person than I did 18 months ago,
Yeah.
when I filed my divorce, and that's because I just feel so free. But um, I would say for people, is to look at that, look at the photos, because when we're in relationships like that, we do feel like we're going crazy.
Yes.
And obviously we're not telling everybody everything, because I don't
Mhm.
I, I don't think we should, unless we're being physically abused, we're
Yeah.
not trained to say,
Yes.
hey. But a lot of people that manipulate us do it in ways, there's a term for it, and I don't know. I totally forgot what it is, but I learned about it through somebody on TikTok that talks a lot about narcissism. And
Mhm.
there's an actual term, and you'll probably know what it is, but it's where um somebody has a relationship with you, and they can like backhand you and manipulate you in
Are
public.
you
But
talking about gaslighting? You talking about
no,
that?
it's not gaslighting. It's
Mhm.
basically when they can
Oh, it's subtle.
manipulate. Yes, where nobody
Mhm.
else is like,
No
why is
one
she so
knows
mad
but
about
you. Yep.
why is she so mad about that comment? And you're
Yep.
like, he knows why I'm
Mhm.
mad about that comment. I just told
Yes.
him that my arms are bothering me. You know what
Yes.
I mean?
Yes.
There's an actual word for it. I'll think of it. But towards the end of my relationship, that was the entirety of my relationship.
Yes.
Was there would be a whole discussion about something that he knew would trigger me, and then he would get me
Yes.
in public and just trigger the
Mhm.
shit out of me, waiting for me to be reactively abusive to
Yes.
him. And that is so out of character for me.
Yes. And you know what's interesting about that? That's like a crazy making strategy that a lot of women in your situation will end up feeling crazy, and it's like almost like highlights and illuminates something it's almost like they're pulling from you what they are and
Yeah.
publicizing it. And
Yeah.
it's almost like, in situations like that, you become like you're an emotional hostage.
Yes.
The what I was going to say that I just love about you also is this authenticity you have, because what I found every time we bring up narcissism on, the podcast, or a woman comes on and talks about, really dark experiences with a man, women come out of the woodwork who start to say, I never wanted to say it, because they're pretending. You don't pretend. And
Yeah.
that it's because they feel like if they showcase this, or if they say anything, they feel like it makes them look bad. It's like a
Yeah.
shameful for them. And that's what's so beautiful about what you're doing for the women of the world. I just keep saying it because I really believe that about you. It means so much to me as a person, because I just love that.
Thank
You
you.
what would you say? I want to be respectful of your time and all that. What would you say is you have come out of many different hard times and succeeded. What would you say to someone who's feeling like down about themselves, or feels like they can't get to their dreams, either in terms of business or socially, or just what would you say to them? Or
Yeah.
they're not getting enough followers, or, all the things.
Followers are a little overrated, guys. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly. I have a
I'm just
whole
kidding.
theory on that. But
Yeah.
anyhow, yeah.
Yeah. The main thing, and it's something that I've been telling myself every single day, because I've been in a very hard season myself, is bet on yourself. and take all of that love, the compassion, all of the things that you pour into every single other person, and start pouring that into yourself. And it's gonna hurt like hell. It's gonna be hard. It's going to feel awkward. It's gonna feel lonely. It's gonna feel all the things, but feel all of those things. Go through all of those things, and really figure out what you're trying to do. And the other thing in terms of just happiness and also business, and this is something again that I'm teaching myself, is if you've done it once, you can do it again, right? And so this is literally a mantra I tell myself every day, because some days, I'm by myself. Like I've been on my own for the last, 5 or 6 years, with no like 9 to 5 job, and made sure all the bills were paid. Even when I was married, it was just me paying for everything. Um, and I've never had the luxury or experience of what you said earlier, is being able to like, "Whew, okay, if I don't have it this month, so and so does." And I was married for a long time. I've never experienced that, right? My parents have that. Like my mom hasn't worked in 20 years, and my dad's worked, and I've never experienced that. And I tend to attract women that have never experienced that as well. And it becomes exhausting. However, if you can do it once, you can do it again, right? And so that's what I just try to remind myself. It doesn't make it always easier, because I'm like, okay, well, I want a soft life. Like, when do I get a break? You know what I mean? When do I get to be like, oh, cool, somebody else got the mortgage this month? Like, it's not
Yes.
all on me.
Yes.
But in God's timing, right? But I just try to convince myself every day, or remind myself rather, that if you can build it once, or you can do it once, you can do it again. And that goes with bad days. Like, you've survived 100% of every bad day you've had, and somehow you still woke up, and you still chose to be a good person. You still chose to work your ass off, even when you've been in debt, when you've been having the wrong people around you. You still chose to wrap love and kindness around the wrong people. So imagine when the universe gifts us the right people. Like, that stuff is what keeps me going, is knowing that all of this goodness has to be coming. Like, I have no doubt all of this is coming my way. There's no
Yes.
other reason why I would be going through all of these experiences. So that would be my main two things.
I love it. I love it so much. And I really relate to that because I'm one of those women everything ends at me. And what I really have been pondering over that, Shannel, is this concept. And I don't know 100%, but I'm practicing it. The concept of, being someone who can receive. I grew up
Mm.
in I was neglected. So I was very self-sufficient. I learned how to do everything myself. I have the same sense from you, and finding everything had to come uh, from me. Right. So now,
Yeah.
if you look at it, it's just a lifetime, going through that. Right. So what would happen? I wonder, maybe we can do it like as a accountability thing, that we shift, that we're receivers, that I
Yeah.
can be a woman who doesn't have to be the answer. What an
Yeah.
incredible thought, right?
Yeah, I've actually really been trying that, like in my
Hmm.
dating life, but also in friendships.
Oh
And
yeah.
what I've learned is, since my divorce, because I worked really hard on building some solid friendships post divorce, is being a receiver makes you a better giver. And
100%,
that
right?
that makes me so excited, because I used to have the friends too, like, I would pay for everything. No, I got it. No, I got it. I would pick them up. You know what I mean? I was doing all of the things. And now I've created some really amazing friendships that are based off of me taking a deep breath and learning to receive, and learning how to say thank you, and being grateful for them. And it is a huge change, and it is so magical. And yes, I can't wait for that in dating. Like, there's gonna be some guy, Allison, that shows up and is like, I want to give you the world. I'm like, yes. I'll be
And
like on
are
the
you
magic
willing
carpet.
to take it? Yes.
Yes,
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 girl. You
yes.
know, Go ahead.
I
Yeah.
think like I've been trying to be a huge advocate for women that are so wildly independent and understanding and teaching them this is a trauma response. Yes, we are badass in our own right and all of these things, but life is a community sport.
Yes.
And this was not meant to be played alone or for you to say, I don't need a family, I don't need friends, I don't need a man. Uh,
Mhm.
what the hell? I need all of those things. So I'm going to work really hard on doing my best to give, but also to receive, because that's what a real relationship is, two people that want to pour just
Yes.
buckets and buckets and buckets into
Yes.
each other, you know?
And don't you think that like a real man, someone who's really in his healthy masculine, really is designed to take care of a woman and is designed to give to her? If she takes that from him, right? That, I wonder if it's just like that, it like takes away some of their sense of self or like,
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, that's essentially what ended up happening in my marriage, was the
mm,
breakdown of his ego
mm,
and me surpassing him.
mm,
And he had two options, right? Have an ego issue about it or rise. And he decided to have an ego issue about it.
mm,
So absolutely, I think that not all men are hardwired like that, but for the most part, and I hate it because there's so many people that are like, oh yeah, men should pay. Like it has nothing to do with
it's not
monetary
about
goods.
that. No.
It's about the fact that men are hardwires to be hunters. You know what I
Yes.
mean? They're to
Yeah.
protect, to, for me, and this is how I always explain it when I'm like, I want a protector and a provider, and men are like, oh, so you're looking for someone with money. I'm like, sir, I make way more than you. Okay. So don't even come over here trying to act like I'm a gold digger. My thing is, with my ex-husband, if there was like a noise downstairs, he would send me.
I understand. Yeah, that's yeah.
And that is not a man in his masculine.
No. No.
And that is by far the problem. So that is what I mean by protector and provider,
Mhm.
not like, can he go make a paycheck? Anyone can make money.
Yes.
Um,
It's interesting because money's just a concept and it's just a symbol. It's just a symbol of what's happening, right? So like to
yeah,
me, and I think a real man understands that when they can say, yeah, no, I want to provide this for you. I want to protect you because then they're in themselves. They,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead,
Well,
hon.
and I was just gonna say, and just from dating, and I just love this topic so much. I also just don't think men realize how miserable they are when they're not financially stable.
Oh,
Like they're
yeah.
insufferable. So
Mhm.
the reason that a woman does not want to date you while you do not have money is not the actual money. Because I can go on a picnic with somebody. Like I've actually
Yes.
never had a picnic. Like if a man said, I'm picking you up, and he surprised me at a park with a picnic. Like, girl, that could maybe cost like
Yes.
$15 and I would be like a pig in shit. Like, I would be so excited,
Yes.
okay? However, men are insufferable when they do not have money because their ego is tied and they are hardwired to protect and provide, and they do
Mhm.
not feel like they can do that. So I am a huge advocate that men need to be at a stable place,
Yeah.
not just financially but mentally before they're dating, because they always say, well, it's about money. It is to you, to a man. It is to a man because your ego is now fragile. And when a man's ego is fragile, they cannot be masculine. They cannot be my safe place. They cannot be where I can go and lay my head and say,
Yes.
whew, I had a rough day. Let
Yes.
me drop into this feminine energy with you.
Yes.
And so um anyone that's listening, and I think that men need to hear this the most, is that it's not about the actual money. Money is
No.
whatever, you know what I mean?
It's a
I always,
symbol. It's all it
yeah, and I
is.
always say, actually, my marriage was the best when we were the brokest,
Yeah, I would believe that. Sure.
you know. But my thing is like, don't focus on money, focus on the outcome of your relationship. And men have such ego issues when they're not financially where they need to be. And that's why I think it's so important for them to be at a place, because even if we go do a free date, right, with a man who is paying his bills and and has his car payment on auto pay or whatever, whatever makes him feel really good, right? If Even if we go do a free date, right? Or like a cheap, I don't want to say a cheap date, but an inexpensive date at the park, which I would love, by the way, right? Allison would love that too, right?
Yes.
Any woman listening, I'm like, put some flowers out. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Okay, whatever. But a man that is has money, right? Is like, cool. This is cool because I'm making her
Yes.
happy. But a
Yes.
man that doesn't have money doing that is like, shit, I'm just doing this because I can't afford
Yes.
to go to the $400
Yes.
dinner that she's accustomed to. So
Yes.
that is where that major switch
Mm-hmm.
is, and where I wish more men would understand and be open-minded to receiving that information. Now, are there women that take advantage of men? Yes. And are men stupid and pay for dumb shit? Yes. But I'm not talking about that.
Yeah, but
Those
that's not what we mean.
That's
Yes.
not what I'm talking about. I mean, I'm talking about like the everyday woman, and I know we're short for time, but just really quickly too, is that when a lot of men are like, oh, women just want a man with money. And I'm like, actually, no.
No.
The wrong woman wants a man
Yes.
with money. A
Exactly.
woman that's doing well, like they always say, a high value man doesn't care about your career, your accolades, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a high value woman doesn't care about those things either. We care about your drive,
Yes.
your
What's behind
ambitions,
it? Yes.
where are you going in life?
Mhm.
What is your work ethic? Maybe you're not at the peak of where you need to be, but that's okay. So just something to think about too. So, but yeah.
I'm who I have whatchamacallit. Do you know who Mother Trucker is?
Uh-uh.
Okay, well, she's my next podcast, and she owns a trucking company,
I
and
love
the
it.
name of it is Mother Trucker.
I love
And I
it.
feel like it's just girl power day, right?
Yes.
I was like, oh my God, Shannel would love that concept, because she's like a mother trucker, this
Yeah,
chick.
I love
Yes.
that.
So I want to just say to you, I honestly, I feel like I could cry on your shoulder. Just
Thank you.
honestly. I'm like, could I just come and sit on your couch and would you just make me feel better and we could talk shit? But
Yeah.
anyhow, I just think you're just incredible. And I'm
Thank
so
you.
grateful. I feel like you're very, very special.
Thank
And
you.
I'm just saying it to everyone here because I do think that the value that you're looking for, you've been putting value out for so very long. And I think a lot of women do that. They're just tiring and giving and trying to change others and love others and all this stuff. And it's time for that, for all of that to be switched into like this receiving. I just can't wait to watch what happens with you, right? I'm
Thank
just
you.
really happy to see it. I'm going to, and also I just want to say to the audience that Shannel does coaching. Shannel she has strategies for business. We're having a very, very candid conversation that's just down and authentic about relationships and crap. But this woman is the bomb when it comes to business. Like, I don't know what exactly you're offering now, but she can really help a woman in so many different ways, growing your audience, growing, organically, and being able to scale your business and understand strategies for that. And she's the real deal because she's the one who came from nothing and knows how to build shit. I mean, I've heard stories, and I wish we had like 3 hours because would you ever come on here again?
Yeah, I'll come back.
Would you? Because I am dying to
Yeah.
talk to you about the popcorn story. Like,
Oh
there's so
yeah.
many, you have so many good stories. Would you do it? Would you come back?
Absolutely.
I want
Yeah.
you to. And because I just love to talk to you.
I
No,
love talking to you too.
yeah. Thank you so much for being here. Where will
Yes.
people find you? We're going to have everything in the notes, but where will they
Okay.
find you?
Yeah, I'm most active on Facebook, under Shannel Venegas, and then they can go to beautyandhustle.com. And I do offer women's retreats. Those will be coming back in 2023. So if anyone's been listening and wants more information about that, they can just DM me on Facebook or Instagram.
I want to know about those. And maybe we
Yes,
can
you have to
showcase
come.
them. I want to come. I want you to give me like a little blurb and I'll put it on my social. Not that I'm like maybe you could tell me how to grow my social for God's sakes, but that's another story. But anyhow, I'm just so blessed to know you and I'm grateful for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, love bug. So we'll stay in touch and maybe I'll send you another one. Maybe you could come back in a while.
Yeah, I would love
Yeah.
that.
She has to say yes now in public, right?
Yeah, I'll
She's
come
just gonna
back. No
like
worries.
blow my thing, like, oh, I'm not doing that. All right,
No,
lovey.
I won't do that.
Thank you so much for being here. It's an honor.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. Bye, bye, bye.